You ever sat down at a kitchen table and your teen is just staring at their algebra or what other math homework, frustrated and feeling stuck, and you don't know what to do? You don't know what to say. Probably because you don't remember any of it yourself. So, what we want to walk through today is what to do in that situation when there's frustration and you don't know what to do. So, we want to put you in the situation that you're the guide and the support, and you're not having to relearn algebra or geometry or any of these subjects that you may have learned or you may never have learned. So, what we're going to talk about today is three things to say to kind of break the tension and help you to move forward. The question method to get unstuck, and number three, we'll talk about why these things work and why they're effective, not only to get unstuck, but they're effective as teaching tools to put you in the mode of the leader and the coach instead of the math teacher. And this, I would even say, would probably work for any other subject as well. Socrates was famous for doing some of these things. So, when you're point number one, here's three things to say when your teen is struggling. You don't want to say, you don't want to just come in and say, "Hey, this is easy," or "I this used to be easy for me. This was easy for your brother or sister." You want to start a fight, or you should already know this. And a lot of times that's where we feel like you should already know this. Don't say that. That's just frustrating. Or just try harder. These are things that would frustrate any of us when we hear them. And I get it. That's kind of what's on the top of your mind. But let's think about some things that will have an impact to help you. So when you're in that situation, you first have to slow down yourself, stop, and say, okay, I've got to help get this unstuck. Right? You've got a problem, so you want to help it get unstuck. Your words matter, right? So, all right, so what I would start with is number one is, hey, let's slow down. What do you understand? Let's talk about what you do understand. Now, typically, if you say this, you're not going to get the immediate, oh, well, let me show you. It's going to be a little bit of, I don't understand any of it. But you kind of want to have to, you're going to have to repeat that. And you're going to have to say, okay, let's slow down. What do we understand? If you've ever been in an emergency situation or been in any training, you know the first thing is don't panic, which is crazy because what's the first thing humans do is we panic when things don't go wrong. So a lot of what's happening is frustration builds up and it becomes panic, and you see time running out. You see, I can never do this, and it just piles on. So the slow down. Let's understand what you do understand. And so you're probably not going to be able to say this once. You're probably going to say this a couple times. So no, just let's slow down. Let's look here. What do you understand? And they're probably going to say nothing. And then read the problem again. Read it to them. And this doesn't mean you doing anything. This you're reading them. What do you understand? Get them to start saying the parts they do understand. And this shifts the focus. If you can get them in this mode, you're shifting the focus from failure, I know nothing, to progress. I actually have something done here. Right? This is kind of the model of let's look at the work that's already been done. We all get frustrated when we're overwhelmed. And sometimes if we look back, well, we've already done a whole bunch, so that encourages us. So that's what we want to do. Slow down. So the words to use is let's slow down. First, what do you understand so far? And we have to get that said until they start talking. All right. So number two is, and these are going to be all related, is can you show me how the problem starts? Now, again, you don't need to jump into teacher mode. Let me get you on a chalkboard or a whiteboard or a piece of paper and pen and trying to solve the problem, which is what most of us want to do. Can you show me how the problem starts? Leave them in control, right? They're the one that needs to be solving the problem. The whole point of doing a lot of high school subjects, not just math, but the whole point is for them to learn to think critically, So can you show me how the problem starts? And it encourages them again to take the first step, to just stop and say, okay, this is what we have. It takes the panic off. And again, you probably will have to say this a few times, say, no, just show me how it starts. And it will, oddly enough, when people have to, I mean, you know this, I know this, when we have to explain the problem to somebody else, we get it, right? How many times has that happened to you? When you're frustrated with something and you explain it to somebody and you're like, oh, I see it. Because in explaining it, you are having to put yourself in a different position of explaining the problem to somebody else, which means you're stepping back a little bit and trying to convey what's going on. And when they do that, they oftentimes see that there's some understanding, whether it's complete understanding or not, they will start moving forward. So that's the second thing to say. So the first thing again was, let's slow down. What do you understand so far? Second is, can you show me how this problem starts? Number three, let's look at one small thing we can solve first. One small thing. Now it could be a tiny thing, right? So this builds momentum and confidence. And so, for instance, if they have a bunch of stuff written there, and let's just assume you understand none of it, and say, what can you write down? And one of the problems that we see with students is the hesitation to pick a pen up and write something down. There's some kind of weird momentum we get from that. And they've got this problem, and you're saying, they have that pencil, put the pencil back in their hand. What can you write down? Write down something about this problem. And again, and all of these responses, depending on the level of frustration that they have hit, you're probably going to get nothing. I can't do anything. I don't understand any of this. This is so stupid. You're going to get all the things that probably you and I say too about things. So, but just keep slowly pushing on that and say, okay, well, what can you write? Is there nothing you can write down? And you may even be able to, if it's a word problem or sentence that says Johnny has 3 oranges, you can at least read that and says, well, it says Johnny has 3 oranges. Can you write down 3 oranges? Point being, get them moving, right? So let's look at one small thing we can solve first, and to get them, because in many problems in life, that's how it is, right? Things are bigger, and if we need to take the first step. So that's what we're trying to do, is get momentum and some confidence built. So these 3 things to say, if you just stop and say, okay, let's slow down, and what do you understand so far? Or number 2, can you show me how the problem starts? Or number 3, let's look for one small thing that we can solve first. Key in all of these is you have got to stay calm. You can't get caught up in the drama. You can't be rushing. You can't be panicking yourself. Just take a deep breath and try to calm the situation and help them relax a bit and get out of panic mode. That's all we're trying to do, is get out of panic mode, because oftentimes your students do know they know more than they think they know, because the problem looks a little different than what it did before maybe, or they need time to recollect and say, oh, well, I remember seeing something like that in the chapter or on the video. So these things will help you get there. So that's point number 1, is the 3 questions that you can ask to kind of break things up. Now, the question method, again, I mentioned the series of asking questions like we did before. So let's go on kind of a Socratic method of, instead of explaining, ask guiding questions. Now, this is super powerful. Let's just say, let me say this. If you're sitting there as a parent, I hear this from a lot of parents too. If you're sitting there as a parent and you feel inadequate because you do not understand this situation, because you don't know this math, because you have never learned it, because you have forgotten it, all of these reasons we may feel inadequate, which puts us a little bit in the panic mode too. I can promise you, I have been in many situations where people are presenting excruciatingly technical subjects that probably nobody in the room understands except maybe the speaker. I mean, it happens all the time in engineering conferences, things like that. They're down in the weeds up there talking, and the people sitting in the audience, are we following? Probably not. And yet, they can ask very powerful questions, not because they are experts, but because they can guide the conversation. So, for instance, one of the things that I have seen people do very powerfully and really look like geniuses is say, what is the problem you're really trying to solve here? Now, so no matter who is talking, what they are doing, this is a question that kind of stops the conversation. I use this in meetings all the time that have nothing to do with math. What are we talking about? What problems are we trying to solve? And it forces everybody, or in this case, your student, to stop and step back and say, well, I don't know. Now, you have to get them to stop. But what's the problem you are trying to solve? Or what's the problem asking you to find? Any of this. This is one of the tricks on the ACT and the SAT also is asking this question. And when you look at an SAT or ACT problem, what are they looking for? That's one of the big tricks in writing the questions, but we won't go into that right now. So what's the problem they're asking you to find? And it forces them into question mode. Now these are different kinds of questions. These are not panic questions. This is you actually leading them to a solution. So what's the problem they're asking you to solve? Or maybe you would say, do you see numbers or letters that you could combine? Now, if you don't know anything about algebra and you've forgotten everything about algebra, you may have a whole bunch of stuff like 3x plus 2x plus 3y, you'll have a bunch of stuff written down. And the question is really, can you simplify that? That looks kind of complicated. Is there anything we can do to simplify it? Is this like a problem you have already done before? Now, when I'm saying all these, you want to say it in a tone that's not panicking, that's not accusatory. Um, and you're guiding. You're guiding an answer. Not like the first three questions, which were really to stop the panic. These now even if your students just say, hey, I'm stuck. I don't really know what to do. There's a huge power in just getting people to talk through the problem. So this question method of asking guiding questions, as you look at the problem, you may not know anything about it, but you can say, what are we trying to solve here? What's the goal? It doesn't matter your question. What matters is they are having to explain to you what's going on. And in the explanation, their processing is going to start to kick into gear and they'll probably see the answer. So again, their job is to lead them to examples, to jog their memory, not to give an answer. That's great for me and you when we don't want to sit there and work out the problems. And it also is going to do something that's bigger. So the first thing is we want to do is we want to break things up by what to say, the things to say. All of these, notice there's calmness, there's you don't get in the panic. The things to say, and then move into the question mode. But why does this work? So many parents will tell us, they're frustrated themselves because they can't sit down and work the problem for them. I can't show my son or daughter how to work this. I understand that. That's not your goal. Your goal is not to teach you math. Your goal is for them to learn the math or whatever subject that is. You want them to make mistakes. You do want them to make mistakes. It's like riding a bicycle. You learn how to ride the bicycle when you fall off the bicycle or when things don't work right. You learn how to play the piano when you hit the wrong note, right? You start learning the pattern. You start getting comfortable with what you're doing. So this works because you are helping them build problem-solving habits. If you jump in and solve the problems for them and say, well, I clearly that's this, and then they get them past that stumbling block, you've solved their problem. That's not what we're trying to do. The whole point of doing algebra or geometry or any of these other things is to learn to solve problems, because life is full of problems. They don't all look like a math equation, but they all look like problems. And it removes tension. When you're doing these kind of things, it removes the tension, and that only works though if you can step back from it yourself. Take a deep breath and just ask calm questions no matter what is going on. Uh, Look, our goal here is to help them learn how to learn. And I keep saying this has nothing to do with math. It could be involved in any subject. It can even be involved in anything else going in life, right? We're talking these same question habits, these same methods of getting to answers. I mean, how many things do our teens panic over? It's certainly not all math, right? There's many things that you see panic and drama come out about. So getting to the bottom of it and helping them solve problems and learn. That's a whole lot more important than memorizing formulas, doing math equations, even doing well on the ACT or SAT. Those things are great, but the bigger lessons, let's not lose track of that. So if you want some help, though, if you want some help in the Algebra 1 course or any of our courses, we have Algebra, Geometry, Algebra 2 and Trig or Pre-Calculus, and then Calculus. We have How Money Works, a financial course. And we have some entrepreneurship courses for those who are looking to get started in some kind of business of their own. So we're here to help you take the role of the coach and move your student forward to where they want to be and do that successfully.